Hey folks, welcome back again. Here we are looking at some more FASERIP Marvel Superheroes Classic RPG stuff. This is the new revised edition of the basic set, new as in circa 1992 or something. So not really new, but it was new back then. As you can see, it says in giant letters, new revised edition. I did reassure you that it's very easy to tell apart from the original. This one has got a brick background. The Hulk is bursting through, and you've got She-Hulk as well. Here you have Ms. Marvel and the Thing, and it promotes the Day of the Octopus Adventure. So very easy to tell them apart if you're looking on eBay, but just keep that in mind depending on which basic set you want. I really like this one because it makes the basic set a little bit more organized. The downside is that, you don't have this sort of quick start, then jump into an adventure, then jump into a campaign kind of structure of the original basic set. It's kind of assuming a little bit more role-playing knowledge on your behalf, but that's typically not going to be a problem for anybody who's watching this channel. So as you can see, it says it's better than ever. You get a rule book, an illustrated campaign book describing over 80 heroes and villains, 2 full-color maps, 55 full-color character cards, stand-up playing pieces, and dice. The set improves upon the original Marvel Superheroes game with clearer rules and updated characters. It's fully compatible with the earlier game and the Marvel Superheroes Advanced set, and that's the most key part. So there are elements in here that are brought in from the Advanced set, and you'll see those pretty quickly once we dive in. First of all, you notice we get a heck of a lot more stat cards for heroes and villains, which is very cool. We have all of these little standees, so you fold these up and tape them where it says here, and they become a little 3D, three-sided miniature for that given character. And there are tons of thugs and various heroes and villains, which we'll look at later. Got your TSR customer response card. It's a little late to be sending that in. And then we have the 2 main books, the rule book and the campaign book. But the campaign book is very different from before, as we'll see. And then we have our 2 maps. So we have, first of all, you'll note this is quite similar to what we had in the other basic set. Got various indoor areas to fight in here. And in fact, it looks pretty much identical to what was in the original basic set. And we have the map here of the city. So what they've done basically is just taken the map from the previous basic set and put it onto 2 sheets instead of 1 double-sided sheet. So it's a little bit more convenient that way. But you can see, it's the same area of the city. The indoor areas were the same as well. So they didn't really put much effort into this aspect of it. But, it's good to have maps to start with your basic set, along with all these minis and statted out dudes. You got your join the adventure, subscribe to Dragon or Dungeon, which also don't exist anymore, so don't send that in if you buy this. But yeah, I'm not going to dwell too much on the basics of the rules because we've looked at that already. But you see the rule book here is substantially thicker from the get-go, and then the big difference here is the universal table. Now you can see there's more stuff going on the universal table. So whereas before we stopped at Shift X and then Class 1000 was next, here we have Shift X, Shift Y, Shift Z, then Class 1000, Class 3000, Class 5000. So we could get really high up there with the power levels of heroes and or villains. And we still have our battle effects table up here, which is nicely labeled for all the different types of stuff that you can do. The table now has virtually the same content as the advanced set, which adds to the compatibility aspect there. And we'll see with the advanced set what's different about these 2 tables. I'll show you a direct comparison. So the basic set here, the main book is including all the rules in one big blob rather than sort of a reduced version in the battle book and then the bigger campaign book. We have a single 64-page book. It's got a mini adventure at the end, but it doesn't have that big Day of the Octopus thing. So it functions much the same way as the previous basic set as far as how it introduces stuff. We start with, what are heroes, what are feats, karma, how movement works, how combat works, powers, tactics, running the game, dealing with karma, popularity, resources, weapons, vehicles, and magic. Character generation, which again is a bit strange. And then we have the powers and talents appendix, followed by the mini adventure. You can see it's a bit denser now than the previous basic set. They're assuming you can follow along just with words rather than the illustrated depictions of specific heroes that fit certain levels of each ability. But all the FASERIP abilities are explained here, and the ranks and rank numbers from Shift 0, non-existent, all the way up to monstrous, unearthly, and then we get into the crazy categories. Single asterisk notes that these categories Shift X, Y, and Z are not used by player characters initially, but may be used for bad guys and in special situations. You can also get column shifts and stuff that might put you up there. And then you have your cosmic level at class 1000, 3000, 5000. Those are not available to player characters or most inhabitants of Earth. So the guys who hang out in this neighborhood are cosmic entities and embodiments of universal forces. So they give you, as an example, they break down the stats of Spider-Man. And then they talk about the variable abilities, which as before we have health, usually between 8 and 400. Then you get that health number by summing the face skills, fighting, agility, strength, and endurance. And you have your karma, which is the sum of reason, intuition, and psyche initially. And this number will change, and you can use it, of course, to spend on die rolls to achieve great effects. You can also spend it to increase abilities and gain talents. Then you got your resources, which once again are a reflection of how wealthy or well-connected you are. So how easily you can get hold of stuff that you might need, like weapons or vehicles or transport, what have you. Your popularity is how well liked you are, and that's represented by rank as well. It can shift dramatically depending on how you're perceived by the community. If you get a bad newspaper coverage, or if you do something crappy in front of people, or get defeated by a villain in front of people, popularity can go down. Then you get your powers. Each hero and villain described in the campaign book has a list of powers tailored just for them. There's also a list of standard powers at the end of this book for people that want to create their own heroes. So they give you some examples of powers, and some powers like Black Widow's wall crawling and Spider-Man's web shooting are marked as equipment. This version of Spider-Man, his web shooters were a device that he created using his knowledge of chemistry, and so, that means there's a disadvantage there because others can steal that equipment from you. It's not innately part of your body. And some powers will have a rank for the purposes of the intensity of their effect. So if you have incredible electricity powers, you can inflict incredible damage. Body armor at remarkable will protect you from remarkable levels of damage up to 30, etc. Then you got your talents. So these will give a temporary boost in an ability rank when you're using that to do a certain thing. So if you want to use reason for electronics and you have a talent in electronics, you can get a column shift, one higher than you normally would for having the talent. And they explain again with Spider-Man's 3 talents. In this version, he has photography, chemistry, and weapons specialist with his web shooters. So that gives him a column shift whenever he uses those objects for a feat. And then we explain what feats are. So once again, it's a function of exceptional ability or talent, and this is where you roll a D100, cross-reference it with your ability rank, plus dealing with any column shifts that you might have, and then check whether you are successful on the universal table. And as before, a white is a failure, green is a success, yellow is a better success, red means you really pushed yourself and did really well. Red gets more and more common as your levels get higher, but it's still pretty uncommon even when you're at unearthly level, which is the cap generally for earth-based beings. You need to roll an 86 or above to get a red, so that's pretty high. And if you're fighting and you do fighting-related feats, you'll reference the battle effects table depending on what color you get. So white is typically bad, it's a miss, or if you're trying to dodge, it means you get hit. Green will be a decent result, yellow will be a better result, and red will be the best result, depending on what you're rolling for. And that's the basics of feats as we saw in the normal basic set. They finally abbreviated column shifts to CS as they do in the advanced set, which is a lot more easy to read than reading column shift every single time. +1 column shift means a column shift to the right, because that's better for you. -2 would mean 2 column shifts to the left, which would be worse for you. So a plus means a rightward positive shift, and a minus CS means a leftward negative shift. And there's also a gap between Shift Z and Class 1000, so it's not possible to move from the Shift Z column to the Class 1000 column with a shift, so that's important to remember. Then you got the intensities of feats. So this is where you use the colors with feats, basically. So a green result is okay, yellow result is good, and red result is great. Depending on the task, you'll have different level of intensity. You assign an intensity rank to the task, and if the intensity is less than the character's ability rank, it's a green feat. If the intensity is equal to the character's ability rank, it's a yellow feat. If the intensity is greater, it's a red feat. So it's similar to dealing with materials like we're outlined in the basic set, but just kind of generalized. Red feats are, of course, the most difficult, and that means that you're really pushing yourself to do something at the next level, kind of almost beyond your abilities. And there's an optional rule here that you can just declare certain feats to be either automatically successful or impossible. If an intensity is 3 or more ranks below the ability being checked, then you can just say, well, you automatically succeed. If it's more than 1 rank above the ability rank being tested, then they may declare it impossible. And then they have intensity charts. So for strength feats, they give you the appropriate rank for lifting different amounts, for different types of agility feats, endurance feats, reason feats, like understanding star drives, intuition feats, like finding invisible objects or hidden doors, psyche feats, like typical mind control, typical magic, stuff like that. Then we get into material strength, which is a little bit more detailed than before. We have more examples in each category. Going up to class 1000, again, we have virtually indestructible stuff like Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, and Captain America's shield. So when you try to break something, then you use the intensity measurement again to decide whether they need a green, yellow, or red feat to break that something. And the judge can also take this other material into account. So if the material is thin, like less than an inch thick, then you can give a +1 column shift. If it's more than a foot thick, give it a -1 column shift. And if more than 2 feet thick, -2 CS, etc. That will reflect the increased difficulty of being buried under lots of stuff, whether that be stone or steel or what have you. And then we have, of course, karma. Before rolling your dice to resolve a feat, you can announce, I want to spend karma on this. And then you roll the dice. And if the roll isn't high enough, you subtract the die roll from the lowest die roll that would have yielded the color you wanted. And then you spend that many karma points exactly. So it's a 1-for-1 exchange of karma points for added points to your die roll. Even if the dice roll is high enough to get the desired result by itself, the character still expends 10 karma points. And if you don't have enough karma points to make up the difference, then you can't accomplish the feat. You just take 10 karma points away and you have to live with the failure. You can also use the karma to reduce enemy attacks. Pay flat 40 karma points to reduce the bad guy's success by 1 color. So if they got a red, you can reduce it to yellow. You can reduce a yellow to a green or a green to a white. You can never spend karma on behalf of somebody else. It always has to be either your own dice or you have to be the target of somebody else's dice. But if it's an area attack and you spend karma to reduce its effect, then that does benefit everybody in the area. So you can do that. And if you're surprised by an opponent, you can't spend karma, which is the same as before. So only good guys can spend karma freely. Villains can only spend 20 on any karma roll. And even then, they typically only use it to save their lives. We get into movement. As per usual, the map is divided into areas. And so the ranks of endurance determine how fast you can go. If you have remarkable endurance or better, you can move 3 areas in a turn. With powers like super speed or other special movement or flight, you potentially move much faster. And they explain how the maps are drawn and what the different types of lines mean. You can block doors, all that kind of stuff. And then the difficulties of fighting within clutter and crowds. If there's a clutter marker in an area, you have to make an agility feat to move into or out of it. If you fail, then your move ends. You might be able to get into the area, but you can't leave it, for example. Then if you're fighting in crowded areas, any attack that you make, you get a -1 CS to that attack. If you throw a missile weapon and you miss, you roll a second time. And if that one is successful, then you hit a random bystander. So don't do that. You have vertical movement, which is also important. So that includes stairs and elevators and wall crawling or falling, which they call sudden irrevocable downward movement, better known as falling. So buildings have small numbers in the corners on the map, which indicate the number of floors or stories in the building. A story is about 15 feet high. Abilities like wall crawling will let you move at normal speeds and just climb up the building like Spider-Man. Otherwise, you'll have to use stairs, the elevators. If you're flying, you can just ignore all of that and just go vertically according to your speed and not even worry about it. And the falls off of a building, you'll lose 10 health points for every story fallen, to a maximum of 120 lost from a fall. Body armor, force fields, and similar might absorb some damage. And those who fall make an endurance feat. A white result means you pass out for 1 to 10 turns, which you would roll on D10. While falling, you can try to grab something to stop the fall. An agility feat of excellent intensity. Characters with remarkable or better agility must make a green feat. Excellent must make a yellow feat. And good or less must make a red feat. So you need to spend some karma probably. If you leap from a high place instead of falling, then you'll need to look at the leaping rules. When flying, moving up and down a story is counted as a movement of an area. That's how you judge your vertical movement with a flying ability. They also have an optional rule about acceleration and deceleration, so that flying characters can't reach maximum speed in a single round. And there's rules for swimming as well, and leaping, which is tied to strength instead of endurance, and you can leap as far as your rank number in feet without difficulty. That's green feat. Increasing this by up to 1 area is a red feat, so it's a big jump in difficulty. You can also leap from a building and land safely as opposed to falling off a building. However, if the distance is greater than the character's normal leaping limit or the feat fails, then you're treated as a normal fall. And they give you a speed table here, so land, water speed areas per turn based on your rank, speed in miles per hour, air speed in areas per turn, and the miles per hour. You can get into teleportation at class 5000, interplanetary speed at class 1000. Unearthly will get you 40 areas per turn. And we got combat, clobbering time. Basically, it's the same as before. It's a side-based initiative. The judge will decide secretly what the bad guys are doing. The players will tell the judge what the characters are doing. Each side rolls a die. The higher number gets to perform their actions first. After that, the situation reverses. attackers and the defenders, the side that rolls lowest, will do their actions. But sometimes their actions might be prevented because of the actions of the attackers. So for example, if you wanted to go hit somebody but you were knocked out by the bad guy on their turn, then you can't do that anymore. Then we got health and combat. But it all boils down to the feat roll. So you decide the type of combat and the applicable ability. You make a feat roll for that ability. You look at the universal table to get a white, green, yellow, or red result. And then you look at the battle effects table for that type of attack. And there are defensive moves that you can make as well. So you got evasion, which uses fighting, dodging, which uses agility, blocking, which is a strength ability, escaping, which is used against wrestling or grabbing, is also a strength ability. And finally, body armor and force field can have a significant effect on whether an attack succeeds and often reduces the damage taken from the attack. So first to talk about fighting combat. So you have blunt attacks. They give you basically a summary of each type of attack and the effects of each of the white, green, yellow, or red on the battle results table. For example, with a blunt attack, if you get a white, you miss, no damage is inflicted. A green, you hit the opponent and you reduce their health by an amount up to the attacker's strength rank. On a yellow, you get a slam. You lose health points the same as green. In addition, you must check to see if he is slammed. Defender has to roll on the slam table. On a red, a stun occurs. The opponent loses health points and they must check to see if they're stunned. With a blunt weapon, you get a +1 CS for figuring damage, which is pretty cool. Edged attacks, you use the hack and slash column. Agility is for your ranged attacks and throwing stuff. They have a description of what happens for shooting attacks, edge throwing, blunt throwing, and energy attacks, force attacks, and each of these have some different relevant results for white, green, yellow, or red on the battle results. You have your range tables as well, so this gives you an idea of how many areas of range you have depending on your power rank. And your strength rank determines your throwing range if it's a throwing attack. Then they have wrestling. So you can grapple to get somebody in a full hold. You can inflict your full strength damage and take one additional action besides on the next turn. A grabbing attack is trying to take something away, like a gun, a bomb, or something from somebody else. You can basically disarm somebody. You also have the endurance combat, which is charging. For each area you move through, you get a +1 CS up to a maximum of +3. So I don't know if we had the maximum +3 in the previous rulebook. Maybe that was clarified here. And we got your defensive actions. So evading is a fighting feat, and it has to be announced at the start of the turn like everything else, and you can't do anything but evade. You roll to see whether you get an auto hit, which is bad. Everything hits you. An evasion or an evasion with a +1 or +2 CS. So if you get a green, the evading character dodges the blow and takes no damage. If it's yellow, the character not only dodges but is in a superior position so that you get a +1 CS to hit next turn. You get a red, you get +2 to CS to hit next turn as well. You can only evade one opponent at any one time. Other attackers attack normally. You got dodging, so you try to get out of the way of an attack. You can perform other actions, but all of your feats will have a -2 CS penalty. That's new compared to the basic set. You couldn't do that before. You could only dodge. So you announce your dodging, make an agility feat, and that can give you either no effect or a 2, 4, or 6 column shift. If you get a white, you get no defensive benefit, but you still get the -2 CS to all your feats that turn. Then you can go all the way up to red, where you get -6 CS to hit for the opponent. Blocking is using strength to try and reduce damage. It was done against physical attacks, grappling, edged and blunt throwing attacks, slugfest, and force attacks. It's not effective against shooting, energy, charging, or grabbing. A character making a block can take no other actions that turn. So you make a strength feat and check the blocking column and modify the strength by that many column shifts. Resulting rank is treated as body armor. That body armor lasts for that turn only. It's used primarily by very strong individuals with low body armor like Thor, and those with higher body armor in situations where they need the extra toughness. Then we have escaping, which is how you get out of a wrestling hold or a grapple. And if you succeed really well, you not only escape, you can either move one area away or try another attack, including wrestling back with a -2 CS. But the -2 CS is your kind of multi-action penalty, it seems like, in this version of the rules. Then we got details on slams, stuns, and kills. So a slam means you're knocked down or across the way. So you make an endurance feat. You can add karma to it unless you've been blindsided. If you roll a white, then you have a great slam. You're knocked several areas away. It's equal to the number of areas the slam character would move at a speed equal to the attacker's strength. For example, if you get slammed by someone with unearthly strength, you'll send a body flying 10 areas. If it's green, the target suffers a regular everyday slam and you get knocked into an adjacent area. Yellow is normal damage, no slam. Red means take normal damage and no ill effect from the slam. Either the attacker or the target determines the direction of the slam depending on if any real damage was inflicted. If there's no damage, then the target chooses. If there is damage, the attacker chooses. If you get slammed into a wall, you have to make a strength feat to break through. If successful, you take no additional damage. If unsuccessful, you take damage equal to the material strength of the wall, and your movement from the slam ends there. Now the stun has the potential of taking the hero out of the fight for a number of turns, as we saw before. So these can result from slugfest, throwing, force, or charging attacks, or also falling off a building. So you make an endurance feat roll. A white means you're stunned for 1 to 10 turns. You roll a die, and that's the number of turns you're stunned, and you can't do anything. You're just knocked out, seeing stars. If it's green, the target is stunned for 1 turn. Character is not knocked down, but cannot take any actions next turn. On a yellow, you're unaffected and can function normally, but you still take damage. On a red, the target is unaffected and can function normally, but you still take damage. A kill result is very dangerous, so the target will make an endurance feat. You can add karma unless otherwise prohibited. If you get a white, your endurance is reduced by 1 rank. You're unconscious and lose 1 endurance rank at the end of every following turn unless tended to, and then you'll die if you get to 0. Green means that you suffer the effect of a white result only if the attack was an edged or shooting attack. Otherwise, the kill result is no effect. Yellow, you suffer no special effect from the kill result, but you do lose health normally, and the red is the same as the yellow. Then we get into life and death, which again is similar to before. So you reach 0 health first, then you make an endurance feat roll on the kill column. If there's no effect, then you're merely stunned. If the result is an endurance loss, you begin losing endurance ranks. A kill result from an attack also forces an endurance check on the kill column. If you fail, you begin losing endurance ranks. So you lose 1 endurance rank per turn after that, and when you drop below shift 0, you're dead. You can spend karma on the endurance feat to avoid a kill result. You can also stabilize your condition by spending 50 karma points while dying, and you remain with your endurance at the present rank for that turn and then begin slipping as before. It's always a good idea to keep about 50 karma points on hand for such emergencies, unless you have regeneration. Or for 200 karma, your character can get another endurance feat to avoid a kill result, and this time you want to kick in a little extra karma to make sure that you get a yellow or red result. If the second check succeeds, he loses no endurance but is unconscious for 1 to 10 rounds. Fellow heroes can halt the endurance loss, as can friendly passersby, and even bad guys may want to prolong your agony. Regaining consciousness, so after the 1 to 10 turns, you'll return to consciousness with your health at the same level as it was when you took the damage. If you reduce to 0 health and you're knocked out, then you have to make another endurance feat at your present endurance. If that feat fails, the character stays unconscious for 1 to 10 turns more, so you pass out again. If you're at 0 health and regain consciousness, you have health equal to your endurance rank when you awaken. You heal health points equal to your endurance rank every hour, but that's assuming you just do light activities. So that's kind of time spent between battles or doing other stuff. And then you can recover lost endurance ranks. 1 lost endurance rank is recovered for each week spent in light activity. It increases to 1 lost endurance rank recovered per day in a hospital. You can't be healed, obviously, to a higher endurance than you initially had. If you have lowered endurance, you have a -2 CS on all feats until you recover. Then they've got some specific stuff for certain powers in combat. So body armor, as we saw before, protects you from any damage below the rank of the body armor. If you get hit by a number of people at once, though, you consider them separately. Even if the sum total of all those heroes' damage would beat your body armor, they're considered separately, and any hits that are lower will still be blocked. And it protects equally well against all kinds of attacks. Attacks that have other non-damaging effects like grappling and grabbing ignore body armor for everything except causing damage. You also have force fields that are treated as body armor. Personal force field protects one target, and projected force field protects everything behind it. You can have both a force field and body armor, but you can't get both at the same time. You can choose which one to use. You could be in body armor behind somebody else's force field, though. For example, if the Invisible Woman made a force barrier and you're Iron Man, then you'd still have your body armor and you'd have Invisible Woman's barrier in front of you. Claws and teeth. This is for like Wolverine's claws or, Sabretooth's claws or whatever. So the material strength will indicate what the weapon's made of. Then you have an indicator of how much damage they do. So Wolvie's claws are class 1000, but it can only inflict good damage. Claws and teeth can tear apart things like body armor, but not force fields. They only inflict their normal damage on force fields. And they use the edged attacks column of the battle effects chart, which can sometimes result in a kill, so be careful. So there's some additional tactics that you can allow. So one thing you can do is hold off. You can choose to wait on your initiative. Even if you win initiative, you let the opponent go until you choose to jump in and interrupt. So if you're waiting for a character on the other side to get to a certain area, you can go, now it's my turn, and then charge in and hit them or whatever. Pulling punches is, as it sounds, you can reduce damage trying to kill somebody. You can attack multiple targets with a blunt slugfest attack or energy or force attacks. You make a single feat roll at -4 CS, and the result of that feat roll applies to all opponents. Entangling weapons. So if the device hits, then the target may immediately attempt an agility feat to avoid being ensnared. This would be things like Spidey's webs. You do a ground strike. So if you have an energy weapon or something and you don't want to attack the target directly, you just want to kind of take them out and not kill them. You can direct the energy against the ground. You roll the feat on the force column, not energy, to see if the target is affected. This will work only if the energy rank is higher than the material strength of the ground. Damage is equal to the material strength of the ground. Well, it's a good way to avoid hurting someone. You can damage the carpeting. The shockwave is a variant of that for characters with edged or blunt attacks. If you have a strength at least 2 ranks higher than the ground you're standing on, you can make a shockwave attack. You slam the ground hard, which the Hulk likes to do, and you can direct the shockwave up to 2 areas away, and everything within the attacker's area and the affected areas, human targets and buildings, suffer the effect of a charge, as if the hero was charging and using his strength instead of his endurance. Targets within may be stunned or damaged according to results of the charge, but only 1 dice roll is made. You can also shoot to neutralize, which is a special form of a bullseye result for a distance attack. This is used to shoot a gun or other weapon from an opponent's hand, like in the Old West. That was part of the bullseye result before, but now it's a separate thing. You make an agility feat. A yellow result means a weapon has been shot from the hand without damaging the target. A red result means that the weapon has been shot from the hand and the target takes shooting damage. You can also shoot to stun, so it's a trick shot. You crease the side of an opponent's head to knock him out. A bullseye is considered a stun result, and a kill result will still be a kill, so watch out for that. You can also do double teaming, so multiple attackers going after the same target. One attacker gets a hold or a partial hold, wrestling attack on an opponent, the other attacker gets a +1 CS to hit. Multiple attacks in a single round have no additional effect on body armor or force fields. This is one of the issues people have with body armor, is that it takes each attack individually. Overwhelming them with numbers doesn't make any difference. That can seem kind of counterintuitive, so some people make house rules to change that, but I recommend trying it as written first before you add any house rules. It's always best to try things for yourself first. Blindsiding, so this is taking somebody by surprise. You get +2 CS to hit, and the character can't use karma, whoever's being attacked. You can also shield other people by jumping in front of them, make an agility feat, and a green result are better, then whoever is shielding becomes a target instead of the intended victim. If you spend a round aiming, you can get a +1 CS to hit, and there's also an option for moving targets. If targets are moving up to higher per round, you get a -1 column shift to hit. 6 to 10 areas per round, -2, 11 plus, -4. That makes sense to me. I mean, if someone's moving fast, it's harder to hit them. Point blank range, you get a +3 CS to hit if you're at point blank with a distance weapon, and the result is always bumped up 1 color, except red stays red. Big things are also easier to hit. 7 foot tall, no modifier. 16 feet tall, +1 CS. 22 feet tall, +2. Over 22, +3 to hit, not damage. Hitting little things is harder, so it's the reverse. 6 inches, there's no modifier. Down to 1 inch, -1 CS. Down to a quarter inch, -2. Smaller than a quarter inch, -3. They have an against and by column, so small things can hit big things pretty easily. Ant-Man is tiny. From his perspective, it's like hitting a giant person if you were regular size, right? You know, it gets that bonus to hit. It's easier. But hitting him is harder because he's super small. There's a fight in the air, so when a character's in flight, they can be slammed regardless of their body armor. And a character suffering a great slam is moved away at its airborne speed, not the ground speed. A character charging from the air, dropping straight down, gains a +4 CS to hit. Wow. Individuals fighting in the dark who do not have infravision or senses that allow them to locate their enemies in the darkness suffer a -2 CS to all combat feats. Now we have some details about running the game, which is helpful for the judge. It's all basic advice on sort of how to set the scene, you know, what to do when players are kind of working at cross purposes, or if you need to adjudicate different actions. Then running campaigns, this is good advice for when you're doing more than just one-shots. Obviously, you need to impress upon your players the importance of karma and making sure you deal out those karma awards at the end of each session so that players understand the full impact of what they've done, and karma is a direct result of their decisions. So they need to be smart and be heroic if they want to have good karma. And in fact, they go into the detail of that here with stopping crimes, conspiracies, all that kind of stuff. Rescues, beating up foes and villains will get you bonuses. Karma rewards for personal actions like meeting your commitments, doing charity stuff, donating stuff, and for good role-playing or being funny, you gain karma. Losing karma is through unheroic things like committing crimes, allowing crimes to happen, getting defeated, destroying property, killing someone, which loses all your karma right away. Borderline cases, so like if a character chooses to die to save their teammates, then you know that's not on you, that was their choice. You can also lose karma for personal actions like not showing up for work or not meeting your obligations. In this case, there are no karma losses for gaming actions, so characters who don't roleplay their characters well are not penalized except for the fact that they don't get the benefits, and as such do not have as much karma as those who do roleplay their heroes. And they talk about the karma pool idea of banking karma pools together for your group to make tracking a little bit easier. And the character advancement rule, interestingly, is optional. In a typical comic book arc, you won't see a hero drastically change in power, but given how much expensive it is to gain powers powers, and ranks, and talents and stuff, I don't think is that big a deal. You need a lot of karma. As with the other basic set, you set aside a karma fund first, and then you pay 100 karma times the rank number of a major ability or power rank to raise it to that level. Going from 20 to 30 in a certain ability would take 3,000 karma. Abilities can never be raised above Shift Z, and abilities and powers can't be raised at all if they're already in the class 1000, class 3000, or class 5000 categories. Popularity can be advanced if you spend karma to raise the rank, and it represents kind of good PR. You can also improve resources through karma, 10 times the desired rank number again. And here they have a nice list of, the go-to karma awards for different actions. So, national conspiracies give you 40 karma, 5 or more rescues will give you 100 karma. When you think about, again, you need 3,000 karma just to raise excellent to remarkable. I don't think character advancement is going to happen very often. Especially, if a single mistake of accidentally killing somebody, if you're Wolvie or something, can ruin all your karma. So, not a huge deal. Then you have popularity as well. Acts of charity, being accused of crimes, all this kind of stuff can affect your popularity positively or negatively. And so it's another interesting thing to keep track of during campaigns. And again, keeps characters thinking in a heroic mode. Running resources as well. This is a good thing because spending resources allows the characters to impact the world. They can buy new stuff, they can buy vehicles, they can buy bases, and here they give intensities for resource feats. So depending on your resource rank, how difficult the feat would be to get clean clothes or a cab fare or a bodyguard or a housekeeper or a lawyer or plane tickets, a small car, luxury car, private plane, all this kind of stuff, military jet. But it's cool that they adopt the Call of Cthulhu model of like rolling against your credit rating. It's a similar idea. You roll against your resources on the feat table, and if you win, then you get the thing and just move on. That represents your access and your connections, basically, to cool stuff. Then we have the different tables for weapons here. We've got their price, range, damage, material, and the type of weapon they are. So it's a little bit more detailed in a way than the previous basic set. Everything nicely organized here. Easier to refer to. Then we got our vehicles as well. Once again, we have control, speed, and body, but they've added a price column in here just for a bit of convenience. You don't have to go back to the cost table. If you're trying to choose between vehicles, then that as well as what the actual stats are. Then it explains how these different aspects work, particularly the control feats. Control feats determine, how well you can turn, or if you can do stunts, you need to pass control feat, and that's determined by the vehicle's control. If you lose control, then the vehicle will keep going in the direction it was going, and you might hit something like another object or a character or a wall, and then you take a whole ton of damage if you remain in the vehicle, but you can use an agility feat to try and get out of the car at the last second, and if you succeed, then you can avoid that damage. If a vehicle is attacked, the body rank functions like body armor and subtracted from all damage. Bullseye results, though, can hit specific unprotected targets like passengers or tires and ignore the body of the vehicle. And by passengers, you have to be exposed, like they can see through the window or something. So if the damage taken by a vehicle is greater than its body, the vehicle will no longer function, and if it's still moving, it'll crash right away. Then we have different types of vehicles: motor vehicles, aircraft, watercraft, and of course there's spacecraft as well. There's optional rules for vehicles like acceleration. So similar to the flight optional rule, it takes time for vehicles to increase their speed to maximum. Then there's also stoplights. So you can randomly determine on each intersection during a chase, for example, whether the light is green, yellow, or red. And if it's red and you still try to go through, you need a control feat to try not to die due to opposing traffic. If you like, you can have exceeding the speed limit, meaning that all actions with your vehicle, including turns, are control feats. Then we have notes for air vehicles, including altitude. And then we have the basic magic rules again. So here, very, very basic. Magical spells duplicate superhuman abilities as listed in the character generation section. They require a feat roll based on the strength of the spell, and the target will gain a psyche feat against the effects of the spell. And this is just a very simple, basic way to deal with it. I think the magic supplement rules of magic is a necessity if you want to have a magically themed game. It doesn't deal with magic here in any great depth like you would find in Champions or Mutants and Masterminds, which also benefit from supplements in that area. Magic is pretty complex in superheroes and fantasy as well, so you always need to have a little bit of more rules density to deal with that. And then we have the character generation system, which again is generating origin, then your major abilities, your variabilities, your powers and talents, and then you fill in the blanks with names, backgrounds, and so forth. You can be high-tech robots or aliens. Then you roll your major abilities down the line. Then you calculate your variable abilities, which can be modified by which species you are. And then you roll for how many powers you get. Then you roll for the categories of those powers. And then you roll on the powers list within each section there. Talents. So once again, you roll D100. You can get 1 to 4 talents, and then you roll on the talents list, and you can get all sorts of different stuff. And then you have the powers appendix, which explains all the powers by category. So resistances, which give you resistance to certain types of attacks. Sensory powers, which enhance your senses in different ways, allow you to detect emotion or energy. Magnetism, mutants, astral and magic stuff, tracking stuff. Movement powers like flight, gliding, leaping, wall crawling, lightning speed, levitation, swimming, climbing, teleportation. Matter control, you can control earth, air, fire, water, or weather. Energy, you can manipulate magnetism, electricity, light, sound, gravity, or energy. Body control, you can have different levels of growth, which will add to your height and your plus to be hit, and you can shrink, and that'll give you the appropriate column shifts according to how small you can get. You can also become invisible, you can elongate, like Mr. Fantastic or Dr. Octopus's tentacles. You can shapeshift, you can transform your body into different materials, which we've also seen in the previous basic set. You can turn into an animal, you can raise your lowest ability by +1 karma shift. And if there's more than one at the same lowest level, you can choose which one to raise. You can have an alter ego, or you can have the ability to phase through solid objects. You can have range attack powers, throwing projectiles, ensnaring people, ice attacks, fire attacks, energy attacks, force attacks, sound attacks, stunning attacks, slashing attacks, and acid and corrosive attacks. You got mental powers, including telepathy, image generation, which is illusions again, telekinesis, personal force fields, projected force fields that cover an entire area. The hero can expand the force field outward, but suffers a -1 CS to effectiveness for every additional area involved. So you can cover quite a lot with a force shield. Mind control, which counts as 2 powers because it's very, very useful. Plant control, size screen, which is always on and protects you against mental attacks. And this power is always at least 1 rank greater than the hero's psyche, and if rolled lower is increased to that level. You can shoot mental force bolts, which use your psyche instead of agility to throw those bolts. You can have astral projection. You can have body alteration powers like extra body parts, like wings, prehensile tail, duplicate arms, all this kind of stuff. You can get extra attacks. So this ability is always at least +1 CS better than the fighting ability, and if rolled lower than this is raised to this level. You can make a power feat to make additional attacks with white equals 1, green equals 2, yellow equals 3, and red equals 4 attacks against adjacent opponents. Pretty cool. Then you got energy touch, paralyzing touch, claws, and rotting touch. Gross. Body alteration is defensive. You got body armor, water breathing, absorption. So you can absorb a particular type of energy and you gain some health back. You can regenerate to recover your endurance rank of health every 10 turns, which is about a minute. Then you have recovery. You recover lost endurance at a faster rate. So once per day, you can do a successful feat roll to return 1 lost endurance rank. As a bonus, you can choose any of the 9 resistance powers on the resistance powers table. You have life support, so you can survive without air or water for a long time. You can have healing. You can restore lost health and endurance ranks to others, but not to himself. Then we got the talent appendix. So we have some additional talents, which again show up in the advanced game for certain things. So for example, we have martial arts A, B, C, D, and E. A allows you to stun or slam opponents regardless of their comparative strength and endurance with no other benefits. B gives you +1 CS to fighting when engaged in unarmed combat. C gives you +1 CS to grappling, escaping, and dodging. D grants you the ability to stun and slam opponents even if no damage was inflicted, such as with body armor. And E grants you +1 to initiative rolls. So those are all really useful skills for hand-to-hand combat. You can also get wrestling for +2 CS on grappling, but not damage. Gun and marksman stuff, again, they give you +1 CS. Tumbling allows you to make an agility feat after any fall to land on your feet. You can resist domination to get +1 CS against all psyche feats against mental attacks. Escape artist gives you +1 CS on escape actions. Underwater combat and aerial combat give you +1 CS in the appropriate situations. Acrobatics gives you +1 CS to dodging, evading, and escaping. Student lets you purchase additional talents at half normal price. First aid allows you to halt the endurance loss of another character, including those that shift 0 health, and those receiving first aid regain 1 rank of endurance immediately if any were lost. Medicine counts as 2 talents. You get first aid, plus you gain +1 CS when dealing with medicine and medical related stuff. Law enforcement counts as 2 talents. You get both gun and law talents. Military grants +1 CS to all feats including military hardware. Street smart grants +1 CS to all feats involving city life. You can speak several languages, so you do a reason feat to determine whether you get 1 to 4 languages. You can't use karma on that roll. Leadership, you form a karma pool and you get a 50-point benefit for as long as you're a member. The benefit is lost if he leaves the group. Crime means you're either a former criminal or well-versed in criminal operations. You get +1 CS when dealing with criminals or masquerading as one. Then we have our mini adventure, which is truly mini. It's only 3 pages long. And that's the rule book. So you can see that it's nicely presented, more compact and more comprehensive than the original basic set. I think it's a nice balance between the basic set and the advanced set. But some people prefer the straight up simplicity of the original basic set, and I can understand why. And also, the changes and specificity, specifically the changes with body armor and force fields and stuff, turn people off the advanced and revised basic sets somewhat a little bit. But again, I think, if you just make sure that people make use of their martial arts talents if they can, and make sure they stun and slam people with body armor as much as possible, you can work your way around those problems. Now, the campaign book for this set is really different than the other one because all the rules were covered in the rule book. So instead, we have 64 pages of just stat blocks, which is awesome. I'm not going to go through them all because there's tons of text about everybody's powers, but we got loads of recognizable faces in here. Archangel, we've got Banshee, the Beast, Black Widow, Boom Boom, good old Cable, he's a fan favorite, Cannonball, Captain America, Captain Britain, Captain Marvel, Cloak, Rusty Collins, Cyclops, Dagger, Daredevil, and it's also got their secret identities. It's got some background on them as well, and any limitations they might have. We've got Deathlock, Dr. Pym, Doctor Strange, who has all these spells, Cloak of Levitation, Eye of Agamotto, which has detection type powers, all the detection type powers with class 1000 ability, and plus 2 CS to all mental abilities and duplications of mental powers. So Doctor Strange is a big deal. So much stuff you can do. Then we have Firestar, Forge, Nick Fury. We've got Gambit, Havoc, Hawkeye, Hercules with his unearthly fighting, unearthly strength and endurance. He's super strong, of course. He's also immortal. He can go into a coma but does not die. Pretty cool. We've got our good old Hulk with unearthly strength and endurance. Got the Human Torch 1 and 2 when they were different. So we have the Human Torch here who is an android, Torch here who is Johnny Storm. We've got the Iceman, Human Torch's opposite, using ice instead of fire control. Got an Invisible Woman who can be invisible and make force fields, which was always handy. We've got Iron Man who can do a million things because of his super flexible body armor. Can also absorb energy, project EMPs, all kinds of stuff. And his limitation is alcoholism, which we know has been a classic feature of the old Iron Man character. Don't know what he's up to nowadays, if he's working the program or what, but alcoholism was always a limitation of being Iron Man. We got Jubilee, Kid Nova, Lockheed, Marvel Boy, who can use mental shapes and mental bolts. It's got martial arts B, which is handy. Got Marvel Girl with Force Bolts and Telekinesis. Megan, who is a changeling and has crazy shape-shifting abilities. Mr. Fantastic with his excellent plasticity and elongation abilities. Mockingbird. Moon Knight, who's got scarab darts, gliding, body armor, and the Mooncopter. We got Namorita, female version of Prince Namor. Good old Nightcrawler with his excellent teleportation and prehensile tail, wall crawling, and chameleonic blending into the darkness. Night Thrasher, Phoenix 2, Professor X, of course, who was incredible at psychic feats. And Psylocke, who was also good with her psyche, can do telepathy and is invisible to machines. Good old Punisher, who's got his whole bunch of explosives and shooty things, as well as his combat talents and abilities. We've got Quasar, we've got Richter, who has an amazing ability to control the earth and make earthquakes happen. We've got Scarlet Witch, who is a probability manipulator. Pretty interesting power, but I won't go into the details. She can also use magical ability, the incredible level, and create eldritch bolts of remarkable rank, and a mystic shield of incredible strength. But at this time in the comic, she was mainly working through probability manipulation. But nowadays, if you've seen, at least in the cinematic and TV Marvel universe, she's very much using her magic abilities. We've got Shadowcat, who can use phasing. She-Hulk, who is super strong and has a flying Cadillac. We've got Silver Surfer, who's got the Power Cosmic and a ridiculous amount of health, 325. The Power Cosmic is amazing. He can generate unearthly force energy, raise any single ability score to unearthly for 1 to 10 turns. He can heal others, reconstitute matter however he wants, detect energy and type anywhere on a planet, ability to survive with no need to breathe, eat, or drink. All karma losses are tripled, though, because of his personal moral standards. And he can fly through space at class 1000 speeds, opening dimensional gates as need be. And he's at shift Z speeds within atmospheres. Plus, he's got a body armor at 75. So, Silver Surfer, again, is a big deal. We got Skids, who's a force fielder. We've got Speedball, who can absorb force and blunt attacks. And he bounces about when he absorbs attacks and can cause damage, which is pretty funny. Good old Spider-Man with his wall crawling, spider sense, web shooters. Storm with her weather control and some great examples of what she can do. Sunspot, who can absorb sunlight and convert it to increased strength and body armor, but he needs sun to be able to do that. You got the Thing, who's another strong boy. Not as strong as the Hulk or Thor, for example, on the very same page. Well, actually, he is as strong as Thor, but his fighting is much worse. Thor's fighting is unearthly at 100. And Thor also has Mjolnir, which is a class 3000 material, and it does unearthly damage up to 10 areas away. It always returns the next round, and he can fly at Shift X airspeed by carrying the hammer after spinning it. He can create a force field by spinning the hammer at remarkable strength, 30. He can step between dimensions using his hammer with unearthly ability, and only Thor or someone with a pure heart with unearthly popularity can lift the hammer. No unworthy living creature can use the hammer of Thor. He can also control the weather. Sorry, I had to talk about Thor because he's my namesake. We've got Tigra, U.S. agent, who's another annoyingly patriotic hero. Vision, who's a synthezoid robot, of course. He's got density manipulation, life support, solar regeneration, energy beams, robotic form. We have Warlock, who can shape change. He's got body armor, and he can convert their prey to crystal and then drain the life from that crystal. And he can travel at class 1000 flight capability in space. We've got Wasp, can shrink and fly and communicate with insects. And Sting, like a wasp with her energy bolts. Got Widget, who is a small robot with body armor, flight jaws, can generate dimensional gates. We have Wolfsbane, who can transform into wolf and wolfoid, or werewolf form, and they have different stats for the wolf and wolfoid forms. Got Wolverine with his classic regeneration, recovery, resistance, and his super duper claws, and his adamantium skeleton. Then we got Wonder Man with body armor, resistance to heat and cold, and flight. Then our villains, we've got the Abomination, who can leap. He's got unearthly strength and endurance. Got Boomerang. He's got his special equipment, boomerangs, shatterangs, gasarangs, razorangs, bladerangs, screamerangs, gravity rangs, and reflex rangs. That's kind of a torture to say. Dr. Doom, who's got loads of abilities. Look at all this stuff he can do. There's a whole supplement about Dr. Doom as well. Just keeps going, by the way. He also has minions, warrior robots, guardian robots, Doombots, who can do loads of stuff themselves. Dr. Doom is a great foe. I hear that he's the new focus of the next MCU major storyline, so that'll be good, hopefully. And it just goes on and on about Dr. Doom, because there's so much to him. Dr. Octopus, of course, the classic nemesis of Spider-Man with his tentacles on his metal harness. Can do lots of different things. We've got Dreadnoughts. These are robots. They work for Hydra. We have Electro, who, as the name suggests, is talented in dealing with electrical abilities. We have Humbug, who has insect noise gloves. He uses sonic attacks through these gloves. Good at entomology. Study of insects, of course. Kingpin, good old Mr. Fisk. He's got body armor, weaponry, and tons of minions. He's a Kingpin in the crime world, doesn't like to get his hands dirty. Got Loki, the brother of Thor. Of course, the trickster god. Got great body armor. Got telepathy and magical ability. He's got minions as well. Then we got Machine Smith. He can transmit his personality, memory, and thought processes from machine to machine. And he's got a bunch of different robot forms, as well as his own minions. And it gives you the details of how those work. We have Madcap. They are good at regeneration, recovery, and emotion control. They also have a bubble gun, which is just an ordinary bubble gun, but he uses this to make people believe that the crazy power is a property of his gun and not himself. All right. And then we have the classic Magneto with his magnetic control. Loads of cool stuff he can do with that. Can create force fields, fly, control energy, project telepathically, project astrally, and he has body armor as well. He also has some minions. He has assembled super teams of other mutants, like the Brotherhood, and he's currently believed to be assembling a new team of superhuman mutants. I wonder what storyline that was hinting at this point in the comic history. I don't remember anymore. We got Red Skull, so he's not particularly superhuman, except he's got a load of cool equipment, including mind control devices and a personal force field, and he's got a load of minions. So he claims to be a guiding force behind the Watchdogs, an organization of right-wing racial fanatics, Ultimatum, and the mysterious Scourge. And he delights in turning common individuals to his will through his thought control devices. We've got Rhino, another classic foe for Spider-Man. He's an altered human with body armor, horns that do edge damage, and a charging attack. He doesn't use any minions. We've got Scorpion. He's got body armor, can crawl on the walls, and his scorpion tail. And it allows him to do a big leap as well if he coils it like a spring. Got the Super Skrulls. So they have body armor, shape-shifting ability to assume any humanoid shape. Their powers don't change as well, so they retain all their other powers like fire generation, fire control, invisibility. They have a bunch of martial arts skills, and they're occasionally aided by other Skrulls. So Super Skrull is the most powerful warrior of his race and knows it. We've got Typhoid Mary. She's got pyrokinesis, mind control. She carries 2 machetes. But only 1 attack per turn. She has the malevolent Typhoid personality and the quieter Mary personality. So Mary has a different set of FASERIP stats here. And that's an interesting one. Then we got the Vulture. He can fly with his flying harness. 6 areas per round. He's often got a gang of thugs and goons in his employ. Then we got a general sheet of non-player characters. Innocent bystanders, thugs, henchmen, policemen, SWAT, etc. That's all very useful. And animals, including bears, dinosaurs, dogs, horses, alligators, lions, sharks, and wolves. And there you go. So that is the campaign book, which doesn't have a campaign in it at all. So it's kind of somewhat of a misnomer, if you ask me. And then lastly, we'll quickly look at the cool cards here. Now, you can probably guess what you get with these little standees here. You get all the various heroes and villains that are statted up. They've all been cut out. I haven't actually folded these or anything. We got, the Thing, Gambit's there, the Torch, all that sort of stuff. Dreadnoughts. And you'll have some common garden variety thugs. And, there's good old Kingpin. Yeah, so everybody that you saw in the campaign book, of course, shows up here as well, which is handy. If you want to have a 3-dimensional experience. Then we have the stats for a bunch of those heroes on these cards as well. So we've got the Beasts, Hawkeye, Captain Marvel, Iceman, Mockingbird. I think these are all just heroes. So if you want to play one of these as a player, all you need to do is grab the card and off you go. You don't need to dig through the campaign book or make a character sheet or anything. They've just got a nice illustration for each of them as well. Got our Hulk, Wolvie, all these different guys, Nightcrawler, Storm, She-Hulk, Namrita, Thor, Iron Man, etc. Daredevil, Human Torch. So yeah, there you go. We've got a whole bunch of cards in this one as opposed to only 8 in the regular basic set. So I really like the revised basic set for Marvel Superheroes. I think it's a great version of the game. It bridges that gap more between the basic set and the advanced set, which I think is a benefit for potential players and judges, because eventually most people, I feel, want to move on to the advanced rules. It just feels right at a certain point to do that. So, why not get a jump on things and, have your basic game be sort of halfway there anyway. I feel like that's a good way to go generally. And yeah, there you go. That is the revised basic set for Marvel Superheroes, the classic from TSR. Next time we'll look at the advanced set and all the extra stuff that you get in there. And I'll start showing off some supplements and stuff. But again, it's an old game, but a goodie. It's got a lot of great features, easy to pick up. And if you're into Marvel, but you're not happy with the way storylines are going, this is the way to fix that problem for yourself. So, hope you enjoyed. As usual, on your way out, if you could click like and subscribe and a little bell thingy so you know when I do a video next time, that'd be great and helps me out a lot. If you feel like helping me recover the cost of digging out these old and new RPGs that are taking over my house, then there's a Ko-fi link below for you to click on for any donations, which are always appreciated. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. I hope you enjoyed a look at one of my favorite classic games, really, the Marvel Superheroes. Both the original basic set, this basic set, and the advanced set, I think, are all well worth having in my collection, and I'll keep them for as long as they hold together. So I hope you'll go out there, check it out, and have fun with it. It's so easy to pick up and play, and even for people new to RPGs, I think they'll have a great time. As long as they have some investment in comic book heroes, they should have a great moment with this. So on that note, hope to see you in the comments below, and hopefully in the next video where we'll pick up where we left off and move on to the advanced set. So until then, take care, be well, and see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.